Hey, good morning. So, yesterday was the No Kings protest being held at various locations throughout the country, brought to you by Carl's Jr. And, there's all this talk about Donald Trump acting like a king, talking like a king, all this stuff, okay? But I want to take a step back for a second and remind you that the Uniparty, both Republicans and Democrats, have essentially tried to do the king-making thing for my entire life. All right, I'm 40 years old, and as long as I can remember, they've been trying to basically set up an American monarchy. You don't believe me? Allow me to explain. It will take a minute. Be patient. Don't just click off because you can't digest everything in 30 seconds or less, okay? I want you to hear me out. We're going to start with George H.W. Bush, elected to president in 1988, right? I'm just going back for my lifetime. I'm sure there's people out there who can go back even farther, but I'm just going to start. I was 3 years old. I think I was 4 years old when George H.W. Bush took office in January of 1989. So we have our elections, 88, 92, whatever, right? But it's always, like the 2024 election, Trump didn't take office until January of 2025. So we had a 1988 election, George H.W. Bush. In the 1992 election, we had Bill Clinton, okay? Bush and Clinton. Those are very important names, okay? Now, I'm going to take another sidestep here and remind you that kings and queens come from monarchies, and monarchies don't have elections. They just anoint the next in line to ascend to the throne. So the king or queen usually dies or some other way leaves the throne, and the next in line becomes anointed to become a king or queen. And usually it's a bloodline, usually it's a family related thing, but sometimes it's not. It just kind of depends on the specific situation for each country. And in the United States, we don't have kings and queens and princes and princesses. We don't have those in title, but we do have the American equivalent, with the president being the equivalent to a king, the first lady being the equivalent to a queen, and the vice president being the equivalent to a prince or a princess. Okay? So now that you understand that part of it, let's get back here. We had Bush, then we had Clinton. Who was Clinton's vice president? Who was the prince to to Clinton's kingdom? Al Gore, right? You know Al Gore. All right. So, in 2000, when Bill Clinton had already finished off his 8 years, his 2 terms, who did the Democratic Party put up to run for president? Al Gore. The vice president. The prince. They tried to anoint the prince under the king to ascend to the throne. It didn't work. But you know what did work? You know what happened? The son of the previous guy, George Bush, did rise to the throne. We had George W. Bush, Bush Jr., become president of the United States from 2001 until Barack Obama took office in 2009, right? Okay, so we've got the Bush family and we've got the Clinton family, all right? We also have the Kennedy family. I also want to remind you that we don't have a royal family like the British have a royal family, but we have families who basically stay in politics forever, right? Okay. Kennedys. So, 2008 election. Bush has done his 2 terms. Everybody was pissed the entire time. Like, we live in a monarchy. We shouldn't have the son of a former president acting as the president now. That's monarchistic. And it kind of is. Kind of is. All right, you're not going to hear me argue about that. But in 2009, leading up to that election, who were they originally going to maybe have run for president? You remember? Who was going to be the Democratic nominee in 2008? Hillary Clinton. The fucking former queen, the former first lady, the former person who was like in direct power with the former king, the former president, Bill Clinton. So now, in 2008, we've already had Bill Clinton, they've tried Gore, now they're trying Clinton again, but the lady Clinton, right? Keeping it in the family, so to speak. Trying to make it so that the heir to the throne stays within the people who are already in positions of power, right? But the Democrats were actually kind of smart, and we're like, look, we can't do what the Republicans just did and put, a family member up there and act like we're not the same. So we're gonna get this other guy. His name is Barack Obama, all right? But as a consolation prize, we're going to give you one of the most long-running, established Democrat politicians in the country to serve as vice president. My hair's a little off there. Whatever. All right, so we got Joe Biden as vice president, prince under King Obama, right? President Obama. They ran for fucking 8 years. And at the end of his 8 years, for the 2008 election, the Democrats, what did they want to do? Again, who did they originally think they were going to put up? And who did they put up? Hillary Clinton. Again, Hillary Clinton. Still trying to keep it in the family. Still trying to let a Clinton ascend to power, to take her seat at the throne. It's her turn. Okay, so that brings us up to 2016. All right, so that was the 2016 election. The people, the voting population, the peasants didn't want Hillary either because nobody really liked her. Who did the people want to run for the Democratic candidate? Senator Bernie Sanders. Once again, another long-running Democrat politician, basically the same kind of thing as Joe Biden, right? But Bernie had kind of a unique approach, and then they had the Republicans. The Republicans in 2016, originally, they floated the idea of having yet another Bush. Another fucking Bush. Jeb Bush. Do you remember that fucking guy? Please clap. So in these elections, we've had Bush and Gore and Clinton, like all these elections are surrounded by families who have been doing this for generations at this point. In 2016, they almost had Bush, another Bush, run for president. But the Republicans at this point were kind of smart and were like, yeah, we can't do another Bush. Like, that's going to seem real weird that the last 3 Republican presidents are all Bushes. Like, this is becoming American monarchy, right? We're just kind of alternating places. All right? Now, at that time, we had a political wild card by the name of Donald Trump, a guy who had never been in political power ever. He probably had political influence because he was a very rich, very wealthy, well-connected person in American culture, but technically not a politician. So a little bit of a wild card. Republicans said, hey man, you know what? The Democrats won with a wild card with Obama. So maybe this Trump guy, he seems to be generating a lot of support. Maybe let's go ahead and let him work the fucking game, right? Okay, so Trump comes in. Now, I will say that over the last decade, Trump has essentially stolen the Republican Party from the establishment, right? The Republican Party that existed for the first 30 years of my life doesn't really exist anymore. It has been there. That is the old Republican Party, and Trump, MAGA, whatever you want to call it, is basically the new Republican Party. Because the old shit doesn't exist. The Bushes don't. Nobody gives a shit about anything a member of the Bush family has to say, and they're basically all pretty much dead. Okay. We still got Hillary Clinton, and nobody really cares about her or anything like that either. But in the 2020 election, who did the Democrats try to anoint, and who did they successfully anoint as the new king, the new president? Joe Biden, the vice president under Obama, the prince under Obama's kingdom. They're just bringing the next in line in power every freaking time. Even though, once again, in 2020, people wanted Bernie Sanders. Again, the Democrat Party said, no, we're not putting up a political outsider or somebody who's even remotely not within the circle, who's not immediately connected to the family. No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to try to bring up the guy who already served under the previous king. All right? So Joe Biden was our president for 4 years, even though the people didn't want Joe Biden. Joe Biden was an extremely unpopular candidate. He lost really quickly, as well as Kamala did. Both of them were wiped out of Kamala was wiped out of the primary really early by another Democrat by the name of Tulsi Gabbard, who is, in politics still today under the Trump administration. So, but because the Democrats are on the social justice thing, they go ahead and keep Kamala around as the vice president under Joe Biden. So Joe Biden is established under Obama. They bring him up. He becomes president from 2021 till 2025. In the 2024 election, the campaign was Trump versus Biden. And everybody, all of the people, even Democrats, a lot of them, basically the news said otherwise. But everyone on the street knew this guy is not doing well. His brain is turning to mush. He does not have the mental faculties together to run. Like, this guy cannot do it. We know that he can't do it. And the media, the news, they all lied, said, shut up, he's fine, sharpest he's ever been. He's fucking on top of the world, right? And of course he was not. And when it became glaringly obvious that he was not up for the job, the Democrat Party pulled him out and anointed the fucking vice president again. They tried to make Kamala Harris the next president, trying to make her ascend to the throne, the heir to the throne. The vice president is the heir to the throne in American politics. If the president are to die or in some way abdicate the throne, the vice president steps up and becomes the new king or queen, whatever, right? These politicians, the political parties, are trying to establish a monarchy for America. So now here we are, 2025. We have all these people out here who are chanting and protesting that Donald Trump is acting like a king. Even though Donald Trump is overwhelmingly the person who was put into power by the peasants. He has no blood lineage to any of the previous administrations. Now, I'm not going to say that he's not some sort of establishment. He is definitely well connected. He has his political connections. But he is not a Bush. He's not a Clinton. He's not a Gore. He's not any of those things. The people who have been running this country for at least the last 40 years have all been trying to establish monarchy and doing the kingmaker thing by trying to anoint the next in line to ascend to power. So why are you calling Donald Trump? Why are you saying that he's the one who's acting like a king? Maybe he is. I'm not even going to take that away from you. Maybe he does speak, talk, and believe himself to be some sort of king. But is he not some kind of king to the people? The people in this country have a massive amount of respect for him. Some people don't respect him, whatever, right? It's about a 50-50 split, at least among the voting population. Among voters, that's the key thing. Not everybody votes, but among voters, it's about a 50-50 split. And this last time, it went to him, which means more people voted for Trump than for the establishment Democrats. But even if you believe that he speaks, talks, acts like a king, you still need to acknowledge that of all these elections since the late 80s, there has been something related to a Bush or a Clinton or Gore. They're all the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, the old Republican Party, all keep trying to do this kingmaker thing. They all keep trying to establish an American monarchy. So if you have a problem with kings and queens and princes and princesses, and you believe that the United States shouldn't have these things, then you need to recognize that both Democrats and Republicans, but mostly the Democrats, because the Republicans kind of gave up on this with Trump. Like, they were like, yeah, this isn't working. We're not going to be able to get another Bush in here. All right? But the Democrats keep trying to do the kingmaker thing. And they don't even have elections. Their primaries, the last, 3 primaries have all been against the will of the people. They have all ignored the votes. They just decide. They are doing the monarchy thing. They hold a mock election. In 2016, when people wanted Bernie Sanders, they said, fuck you, you're getting Hillary Clinton. And then in 2020, when they said, we want Bernie Sanders, they said, fuck you, you're getting Joe Biden. And then in 2024, some people were still like, yeah, we could maybe do Bernie Sanders again, trying to, hold on to some hope that it wasn't going to be Biden again. They said, fuck you, you're getting Biden. And then when they fucking figured out that Biden definitely wasn't going to work, they said, whatever, you're getting Harris. They've done multiple... What do you mean Trump is king? Dude, the fucking Democrats, are crazy about setting up this American monarchy. Get real, dude. Get real. You want to sit here and talk about Trump acting like a king? Look at your fucking Democratic Party. They are the ones who are acting like there needs to be an American monarchy. Get fucking fucked, motherfuckers. Later.